I'm Lord Digby Jones, former Director General of the CBI and former Minister of State for Trade and Investment. What the Northern Powerhouse means to me is that at last there's going to be an identification of creating wealth that has nothing whatsoever to do with the most successful city, the most incredibly powerful city-state in the world, and that is London. So instead of trying to equalize everything in the nation, someone's doing something about making sure that the north of England creates its own wealth, generates their own jobs, and doesn't try to achieve equalization with the southeast of England. This means better connectivity, getting your goods to market, your people to work. It means more opportunity, especially centered around centers of knowledge, universities and education generally, because at the end of the day, if you haven't got a skill in the 21st century, you're nothing. And it also means personal morale and identification, so that people will develop self-respect and self-esteem in cities which have been neglected in many ways. That will lead to attracting inward investment from overseas. That will lead to more prosperity. That generates profit. That generates taxation. That at the end of the day builds schools and hospitals. It is actually that simple.
And permit me to ask you a supplementary question. Given your experience in international business, do you think the north of England has an identity or needs an identity?
The north of England has always had an identity. I think it's been subdivided. I mean, my father was born and raised in Bradford, and Lancashire was a hostile foreign country. So, Yorkshire and Lancashire, Wars of the Roses and all that stuff. The northeast, for instance, is totally different to both of those. So they've always had enormous pride in their own identity, but they've never looked at it as anything that's internationally focused. They've always looked at this as an individual identity of the northwest. You and I might call it Lancashire years ago, and then Yorkshire, and then the northeast. And one of the reasons is, of course, Manchester and Liverpool hated each other, Newcastle and Sunderland hated each other, and I remember once committing the awful crime of telling someone from Leeds I've been to Yorkshire, I've been to Sheffield on one visit, and finding out that to a man from Leeds, Sheffield was a different continent. So they've always had pride and identity, but what they've never had is come together. And what the Northern Powerhouse will do is put some critical mass into this. I think one of the things that's really pushed this on is that devolution to Scotland. You know, Scotland, I come from the West Midlands, right? And the West Midlands has 5.5 million people. That's bigger than Scotland. And Scotland run round everywhere thinking they're special. They're not. They're important. But so's Lancashire, so's the North West, so's Yorkshire, so's the East Midlands. Everywhere is important. But Scotland is no more or less special than anywhere else. And the way the Scots have got to understand this is see competition. And so that the Northern Powerhouse will give that competition to Scotland. Devolution isn't just about politics. Devolution is about economics. Devolution is about opportunity. Devolution is about ministers in London allowing people self-determination in their lives. I think the way that a Tory Chancellor and a Labour leader in Manchester have come together is fabulous. They've left their party politics at the door, and they've really fought for the growth and development of the Northwest in that particular case. I think that's fabulous to see. So some of this has been brought about by people from the north of England turning around to Scotland and saying, you're important, of course you are, but you're not special.
And one final question. Given what is known about the Northern Powerhouse at the present time, does business have a role in helping to organise it?
Business is the most important part of society, because when you make money, you can only do one of three things with it. You can reward the shareholders by way of dividend or capital gain on sale, and you'll pay tax on it. Or you can keep it in the business as retained profit, and you'll pay tax on it. Or you'll remunerate your employees, commissions, bonuses, overtime and all, and they'll pay tax on it. And that tax goes in part to pay for the good, decent, hard-working people we need in the public sector, the teachers, the nurses, the doctors, the policemen, the prison officers, the soldiers, and they'll pay tax on it. But if it wasn't for the wealth that business creates, you wouldn't have a single job in the United Kingdom, in the private or public sector. You wouldn't have one penny of taxation. So that is how important business is. Now, if you take And add to that the fact that when people feel threatened, when they feel worried, when they feel insecure, they cluster around their totems in their lives. They cluster around their God. They cluster around their family. Well, they also cluster around business because they work there. They feel needed. They feel that they're wanted. They have a social life often. They certainly get paid. And all of that means that business can not only be a fulcrum and a place where people can feel identity and worth and ambition, but it also is the only way in which you're going to build anything. If you don't attract an inward investor, if you don't actually get that small business to feel free to take risk and move on, you will not succeed anywhere in democratic capitalism. And the Northern Powerhouse badly needs business to get behind it so that it can succeed. I know it's an inconvenient truth for all the people who are left of Lenin, but frankly, if it wasn't for business, you do not have a nation. And globalization means this is more important than ever.
Lord Digby Jones, thank you very much.
My pleasure.